Hi everyone, this is Attorney Lillian, and I am here today with your Tuesday tip. So today I want to talk to you about the 3 ways your previous marriage can affect your current marriage-based immigration case. I love talking about this topic. I get so many questions. I see this come up a lot with some of my clients. So I thought I would just spend the time, talk to you about it, and make sure you avoid these mistakes because they can be brutal for you to overcome. So let's make sure that you know what these top 3 things are so that you are not making the same mistakes. Okay. Now, the third way, which is the worst way, which is one of the ways that cannot be fixed, is if you entered into a prior marriage and that spouse filed for you to get a green card and the US government says, hey, we think your marriage is fraud. We think you only married this person so that you can get a green card. Or, oh, we think you paid this person to marry you so that you can get a green card. And if they can produce evidence of that, there is a ban on you being able to get a green card. Even if your current marriage is legal, even if your current marriage is real, even if you two are in love and have kids, and that prior marriage where you married someone just to get immigration benefits, that does not go away. And that will affect every single marriage-based case you have in the future, because you would always have to not only prove that your current marriage is real, right? But you also have to prove that your previous marriage is real. So that really makes it hard for you to be able to get a green card through your now current spouse because of that finding from USCIS or the embassy that your marriage was fraudulent. There are, like I said, there's ways around it, but you need to know what you're walking into. So I've had clients where that was an issue and we were able to overcome it by, of course, presenting evidence that the marriage was real, that, whatever statements were made, whatever it was, that it was a misunderstanding, and actually providing concrete documentation of the relationship and statements from both sides proving that the marriage is real. It's still up to the US government whether they believe you or not, right? They have some evidence that they're basing their decision on, and you have to present documentation. The burden is on you to prove that that prior marriage was real. You entered into it in good faith, not for immigration benefits, not for any benefits other than the fact that you want to be with this person, you want to build a life with that person, and it just didn't work out. And it's okay if it just didn't work out, but they still want proof that there was a relationship there and it wasn't just for you to get a green card. Now, some people will say, well, if you're marrying a US citizen and you don't have documentation, wouldn't it always be that, part of the reason for the marriage is that, they will file for you to get a green card? Well, yes, there's always that underlying thing where your spouse would want to file for you, but US immigration is looking at, is this the only reason that you two got married, right? Is this the absolutely only reason? Was there a relationship there? Was there anything else between the two of you other than the fact that you want a green card and this person happens to be a US citizen and they can provide that for you, right? And if there was any payments made, definitely that is a fraud and the US government is going to look at it that way. So by payment made, if you paid someone to marry you and file for you, clearly, that's like a very clear example of a situation where it's going to be hard for you to prove that the marriage was real. Okay, if your prior spouse, if your prior spouse is no longer willing to present documentation of your relationship, or your prior spouse is the one that told USCIS that the marriage was fraudulent, it's going to be really hard for you to prove otherwise. So you really want to make sure that before you start a marriage-based case with anyone, that you have done your part to make sure that you're following the US laws, especially the ones that say you cannot marry someone just so you can get immigration benefits, because that has consequences forever. Okay, that has consequences for marriage-based cases and non-marriage-based cases. So I've seen this affect not just marriage-based cases, but also if there's, for example, the Liberian Green Card Act, they will frame it as fraud. You perpetrated fraud in order to get immigration benefits. Now prove to us that that was not a fraudulent marriage, right? You can still get it, but you need to present documentation to prove to us that you actually did the right thing, right? So no matter what type of visa you're applying for, if you have had a prior marriage that the US government considered to be fraudulent, it will always come back and haunt you unless you were able to overcome it. And this applies to even if you get if you're applying for citizenship and you had a prior marriage and it becomes an issue, it can come back and haunt you. But specifically, you cannot get a green card through another spouse if you had a fraudulent marriage, point blank. And there's no waiver for this. And that's what people always want to know. Is there a way for me to get over this hump? Is there a waiver for it? There's no waiver for it. Okay? If they specifically said marriage fraud and not just like fraud misrepresentation, if it says marriage fraud under 204C, there's no waiver for that. That means even if you're good, you have the possibility of ending up in immigration court and, the US government trying to remove you from the country. So it is so important that before you start your case, that you are discussing any prior marriages, disclosing all prior marriages. You do not want to leave anything out, because of course, once the officer finds out that you left something out, it becomes a question of whether it was misrepresentation or not, right? Because if it was misrepresentation, the officer can deny your case based on the misrepresentation and call it a day. And then you wouldn't get your green card. So it's so important that you disclose all your marriages, that you actually get divorced and register the divorce, even if it's a customary marriage, in the proper way in your country. Again, that's if you're not getting divorced in the US, right? If you're not getting divorced in the US, whatever way that is the legal way to get divorced in your country, that you are following that process, especially if it's a customary marriage. And then the first thing to keep in mind is, if you have ever applied for a US visa and you put that you were married when you weren't, or you put that you weren't married when you actually are married, know that that's going to come back and that's going to present as misrepresentation or fraud that's going to need a waiver. And you want to know that before you start, because that's going to affect your whole process. So you really want to know, okay, these are the things that can be an issue in this case, and how do we solve it or how, what's the process to making sure you still get a green card at the end of the day, right? So not disclosing these things, especially if you're working with a lawyer, is a problem. Okay, it's a huge problem because it will set you back, and in some situations it makes it impossible for you to get a green card. So you really want to pay attention to this and make sure you are aware of these 3 things. These 3 ways your prior marriage can affect your green card based on marriage. All right, so that is your tip for today. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comments. And if you like this video, go ahead and share it. If you know someone who needs to hear this, go ahead and share the video with them. If you like what I'm talking about, like the video. And if you're watching in a place that you can subscribe and you do not want to miss any of my uploads, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And I am Lilian Chukura. I am the lawyer and owner of Lillylegal, where we help our clients get status for themselves and for their family using the U.S. immigration law system. Thank you. Bye.